Wei Lin was a slave anyone could bully. In my past life, I bought his freedom and taught him skills. Yet he hated me with a vengeance. He killed my mother, elevated my concubine to wife, and let his illegitimate daughter trample me underfoot. After rebirth, I returned to the day Wei Lin first entered the manor. He looked at me with utter disgust and declared, "Though I am a slave, I have my dignity. I will never yield to you." Fine. I immediately revoked the fine silk robes and sumptuous meals I had provided him, and expelled him from the manor that very night. Sleep on the streets with your so-called dignity. The moment I opened my eyes, I met a pair of eyes blazing with fury and hatred. Wei Lin lay half undressed on the bed, his body covered in wounds. Weak yet stubborn, he glared at me and roared, "Zhou Riyue, get out!" The maid Mingsue stamped her foot and protested urgently. "Young Master Wei, our mistress only wants to tend to your wounds. How can you be so ungrateful?" Wei Lin sneered coldly. "Medicine? As if I don't know what she's really after?" His gaze turned to me with disgust. "I may be a slave, but I have my dignity. I will never yield to you." I remained silent for a long time before finally accepting the reality of my rebirth. It had been the same in my previous life. Wei Lin was the youngest son of the Prince of Fu. In his youth, he wore splendid clothes and rode fiery steeds, captivating countless young women in the capital. I was one of them. So when the Prince of Fu was executed for rebellion, and the emperor spared Wei Lin from death, demoting him to slavery instead, I soon bought him in secret from my father. I had his slave status revoked, hired doctors to treat his illnesses, and hired tutors to teach him martial arts and scholarship. But Wei Lin hated me. His gaze always held contempt and disgust, as if I were some despicable opportunist preying on his misfortune. His favorite refrain was always, "Zhou Riyue, don't you dare force me." Had I not fallen from grace, I would never have had the slightest connection with a woman like you. I was puzzled then. A woman like me? What kind of woman was I? Exactly? Later, I overheard Wei Lin whispering to my younger half-sister, "Zhou Riyue is neither gentle nor kind. She's too calculating, always wearing that look of pride and ambition. I don't like her." My younger sister Zhou Wanqing snuggled into his embrace, her smile sweet as honey. "And what about me, Mr. Wei?" Wei Lin wrapped his arm around her, naturally. "My sweetheart, the most gentle and considerate woman in the world." Disgusted, I exposed them on the spot. They were locked in the woodshed. Before I could punish them, the next day, my mother fell ill with a dreadful disease and passed away. Then, Zhou Wanqing's biological mother was elevated to the position of primary wife. Zhou Wanqing thus gained influence. Only then did I snap back to reality. Right under my nose, the two of them had orchestrated an elaborate scheme. Even the poisoned wine meant to kill me, it was Wei Lin himself who choked me while forcing it down my throat. My dazed mind snapped back into focus. The loathing in Wei Lin's eyes now mirrored the gaze he'd held when he forced the poison down my throat in my past life. I pressed down the hand of the maid holding the wound-healing ointment and murmured softly, "Very well." I instructed the maid to fetch a servant boy. Wei Lin, thinking I'd yielded, sneered, "Even if you bought me, I wouldn't let you touch me. Best you know your place." I said nothing, sitting down coldly. Just then, the maid entered carrying a food box. It opened to reveal 2 white steamed buns and a roasted chicken. Wei Lin glanced at it briefly before withdrawing his gaze, sneering. The Zhou family is, after all, a third-rank official household. Is this the sort of fare you normally eat? Or is it that, now I've fallen on hard times, you deliberately look down on me, trying to fool me with such scraps? In my previous life, he had used the same words, but I had privately brought him back to the mansion. And it was the middle of the night, how could I dare order the kitchen to prepare something proper? I could only coax him humbly to finish his meal, then prepare every subsequent meal according to the standards of his former princely household. This has significantly increased my monthly food expenses. But now, I chuckled softly and picked up one of the white steamed buns. You misunderstand. This is for me. With that, I tore off a chicken drumstick right in front of him and began eating it with relish, pairing it with the plain steamed bun. Wei Lin froze for a moment. Then he turned his head away with a scowl. Fine then. This young master won't eat your filthy grub. Yet his Adam's apple still involuntarily bobbed. Filthy food? After months of torment as a slave, even resorting to eating swill when starving, he still had the nerve to look down on roast chicken and steamed buns? I replied calmly. Of course. With your proud spirit, young Master Wei, you'd never compromise for such things. He sneered. Good to know. The aroma of roasted chicken filled the room. Wei Lin finally couldn't take it anymore. Zhou Ruyue. I'm tired. Get your maidservant and get out. This young master needs to rest. Just then, the door swung open again. Ming Chui returned with 2 servants in tow. I wiped my hands and stood up, glaring down at Wei Lin. I think you've got it wrong. This is the Zhou residence. You're sleeping in this young lady's room. What right do you have to tell me to get out? Wei Lin turned back in disbelief. Zhou Ruyue. You dare speak to me like this? I sneered coldly. Why wouldn't I? Do you really think you're still the young Marquis of Wei? Running rampant in the capital? His face turned ashen with rage. I've merely fallen from grace. My bearing won't bend an inch for any change in circumstances. In that case, I signaled to the servants and said coolly. Then kindly escort young Master Wei out of the Zhou residence. Let him sleep on the streets with his pride intact. Wei Lin stared in disbelief. The 2 servants moved forward. He forced himself up from the bed and coldly declared. No need. I'll walk myself. As for you, Zhou Ruyue, I remember today's humiliation. Should you ever come begging at my door, don't blame me for showing no mercy. With that, he limped away, his body covered in wounds. The next morning, I rose early to pay respects to my parents. Having risen late due to handling Wei Lin's matter yesterday, the other concubine daughters were already present. Among them stood Zhou Wanqing. She occupied the most inconspicuous spot. Head bowed, eyes downcast, projecting an air of unassuming passivity. In my previous life, I too had been deceived by this very act. Believing her to be as serene as a chrysanthemum, I had privately taught her numerous self-preservation tactics. I even shared with her many things my father and mother had given me. For instance, the jade hairpin with glazed enamel she wore in her hair now was a gift I had given her last month. Thus, among the secondary daughters in the household, she appeared to be the closest to me. Therefore, as soon as I entered the front hall, she came forward affectionately and hooked her arm through mine. Sister you've finally arrived. Father and mother have been waiting for you for ages. I quietly slipped my arm free and lowered my eyes. Sister, are you blaming me for being late? Zhou Wanqing froze, then hurriedly replied. Of course not. It's just that last night, I thought I heard some noise coming from your courtyard. I wondered if you hadn't slept well. No sooner had she finished than another concubine's daughter chimed in. Noise in the legitimate sister's courtyard? Father, I heard wild slaves have been roaming nearby lately. Last month, they even barged into Magistrate Wang's daughter's chambers to cause trouble, trying to ruin her reputation. Could wild slaves have entered the legitimate sister's quarters? Speaking of which, chimed in the concubine-born daughter on the right. I overheard those wild slaves gossiping yesterday. They haven't seen Wei Lin for days. Could he have come here? Zhou Wanqing snapped at them. Nonsense. Before his misfortune, Wei Lin was the eldest sister's beloved. How dare you stir up trouble? The two concubine daughters immediately apologized in hushed tones. Yet my father's expression grew increasingly grim. I watched their little drama unfold with cold detachment. This scene mirrored my past life exactly. I was even grateful to Zhou Wanqing for speaking up for me. Now I realize, wasn't she essentially telling father that Wei Lin's disappearance might be connected to me? Sure enough. The next moment, father took a sip of tea, stood up, and said, "Send 2 servants with me to check on Ayu's courtyard." Mother heard this and frowned, saying, "What nonsense are you spouting? Wei Lin's disappearance has nothing to do with Ayu. How dare you slander a young lady's virtue with such baseless rumors?" Father shot me a glance. This investigation is for Ayu's own safety. I rose calmly and nodded. Thank you for your concern, father. If that is the case, then please lead your men to investigate. No sooner had I spoken than Zhou Wanqing frowned imperceptibly. She tugged at my sleeve in alarm. Eldest sister, you're truly letting father investigate? What if? She thought she'd lowered her voice, but her words reached my father's ears. I glanced at Zhou Wanqing, a cold laugh echoing in my mind. So she knew I'd bought Wei Lin 2 days prior. In my past life, she deliberately mentioned this to father, provoking him to search my courtyard. Upon discovering I'd bought Wei Lin, father flew into a rage and invoked the family law. I knelt in the rain for 3 days, begging him until he finally agreed to take Wei Lin as a household slave. But from that day onward, father grew cold toward me and mother, instead favoring Zhou Wanqing's mother with increasing frequency. As father approached the doorway, I reached out to stop him. A public search of my quarters would be a humiliation. If Wei Lin were found, punishment would be inevitable. If not, rumors would still spread throughout the manor. Either way, I would suffer. Father frowned. Ayu. What do you mean? Could it be you truly harbor Wei Lin in your courtyard? Father, you believe I'm hiding Wei Lin merely because you heard a few rumors? Rumors don't arise out of thin air. Then if it were true, how would you punish your daughter? According to family rules, it would naturally be 10 strokes of the cane. But if he isn't, then it's slander. Spreading rumors at such a young age, stirring up trouble and causing unrest in the household. As I spoke, my gaze swept indifferently over the 2 concubine-born daughters who had spoken earlier, finally settling on Zhou Wanqing. If Wei Lin isn't in my courtyard, then they too shall each receive 10 strokes of the cane as punishment. Zhou Wanqing's face stiffened, about to speak up to clear her name. But my mother stepped forward swiftly, her voice cold. You're right. Ayu is the eldest legitimate daughter. She must not suffer such injustice. My father naturally had no objections. Very well. I'll follow your lead. The outcome was obvious. After all, I had thrown Wei Lin out last night, along with everything he had used. I disposed of it all. My father, furious, pointed at the concubine's daughters who had been gossiping earlier and declared, "If you hadn't believed those rumors, how could you have suffered this injustice? Drag them away. Each of them will receive 10 lashes." My expression remained impassive. Only when the servant stepped forward to drag Zhou Wanqing away. She immediately hid behind me, feigning innocence. "Why are you arresting me? I'm so close to my elder sister. What I said earlier was out of concern for her. I never meant to spread rumors." As she spoke, she pretended to be coy and clumsy, shaking my arm as usual. "Elder sister, please speak for me. Ask father not to punish me. Okay?" I stared at her face for 2 seconds, snorted coldly, and brushed her hand away. Doesn't everyone know Wei Lin is the son of a convicted minister? The emperor sparing his life is pure mercy. You blurt out that he's my beloved. If this had stayed within the inner quarters, it would have been mere gossip, at worst tarnishing my reputation. But if someone with ulterior motives hears this, How do you expect father to hold his head high in the imperial court? Zhou Wanqing's expression froze abruptly. My father immediately understood. Thank goodness you reminded me. Is this matter concerning Wei Lin something you young ladies can casually bring up? After speaking, he shot Zhou Wanqing a look of disgust. Fortunately, no harm was done this time. Each of you will receive an additional 20 strokes. After the punishment, kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 hours. This behavior is becoming increasingly unacceptable. With that, he tenderly took my mother's hand. Your teaching has produced a fine daughter. Concubine-born daughters are ultimately nothing to be seen in public. The two walked away, affectionate and loving. Zhou Wanqing was beaten with 20 heavy strokes, blood streaming as she was carried back to the side courtyard. As she left, she forced herself to glance at me. That gaze was filled with venomous hatred. I stood beneath the eaves, meeting her gaze. Had she finally run out of pretense? The very next day, my father sent servants to deliver a pile of fine gifts to my courtyard. Accompanying them was an invitation from the Sun family. It was for the coming-of-age banquet of Sun Yiru, the Sun family's legitimate daughter. That woman was a madwoman, also infatuated with Wei Lin, yet lacking the audacity to purchase him outright. In my past life, upon learning Wei Lin was with me, she turned her hatred toward me. I rarely attended banquets. She, however, had many friends and schemed with other noble ladies to trip me up at various gatherings, humiliating me publicly. My father grew increasingly disappointed in me through these repeated humiliations. Yet somehow, Zhou Wanqing befriended her, frequently mingling in the capital's noble ladies' circles, causing my father to take notice of her. Holding the invitation, I pondered for a moment before beckoning Mingsui. Have you found out? I asked. Where is Wei Lin now? Ever since you, miss, cast him out of the estate, he returned to South Alley. He's barely scraping by there now. Send someone to relay this information to Princess Jiayang. Make it discreet. Mingsui startled, yet obeyed. Half an hour later, she reported the task completed. Only then did I return the invitation with a smile. Princess Jiayang's biological mother was the late protector princess. After the princess sacrificed herself for the nation, the empress and emperor personally raised Jiayang, spoiling her beyond measure. She lived a life of unrestrained indulgence, particularly fond of keeping male favorites, yet never regarded them as human beings. Every man who fell into her clutches met a grim fate. Since Wei Lin felt wronged by me, Princess Jiayang would make a fitting destination for him. I only hope he doesn't thank me too much. As for that mad dog Sun Yiru, if she has the guts, let her go bite Princess Jiayang. Half a month passed in a flash, and soon it was the day of Sun Yiru's coming-of-age banquet. Early in the morning, Zhou Wanqing was already dressed in her finest, waiting at the gate of my courtyard. Originally, Zhou Wanqing had no right to attend such a banquet. In my past life, she rode on my coattails. In this life, she owes her presence to my grandmother's favor. Ever since she was flogged and punished with kneeling in the ancestral hall last time, she hadn't sought me out once. Instead, she turned to curry favor with grandmother. Grandmother is my father's stepmother. Their relationship has always been strained, and by extension, she never took kindly to me, the legitimate daughter. Zhou Wanqing played the humble underling, then openly and covertly disparaged me in front of her. The two found common ground, forming an uneasy alliance. On the carriage ride to the Sun residence, Zhou Wanqing probed me relentlessly about Wei Lin, both openly and subtly. Eldest sister, young Master Wei has vanished for nearly half a month. Everyone in South Alley claims not to have seen him. Do you truly not know where he went? I fiddled with the bracelet on my wrist, my expression cold. A slave? What business is that of mine? Zhou Wanqing's expression clearly betrayed her disbelief. That's not what I meant. I just recall how you once confided your feelings for young Master Wei to me. I can't help but worry about you. I shot her a glance. You should worry about yourself instead. In such a setting, she's merely a concubine's daughter. Without my protection this lifetime, I'm eager to see what kind of storm she can stir up. Zhou Wanqing seemed to grasp this implication too. Yet her face broke into a confident smile. The carriage soon arrived at the Sun residence. Our court isn't strict about gender segregation, so banquets are mixed-gender affairs. Sun Yiru stood at the courtyard entrance, personally greeting the arriving guests. When the servant announced the Zhou family's arrival, Sun Yiru stepped forward with a charming smile. But she didn't take my hand, she took Zhou Wanqing's instead. Our Zhou family sister has arrived. Please come inside. We have many novel delights prepared today. This was merely a minor incident, and I paid it little mind. Yet once inside the courtyard, numerous unfamiliar faces approached Zhou Wanqing, surrounding her and showering her with compliments, praising the translucent beauty of her white jade bracelet, admiring the brilliance of her attire. They fawned over her like stars surrounding the moon, as if she were the Zhou family's legitimate daughter. Seeing me neglected, Ming-Sui protested indignantly, "What a bunch of clueless fools. They're fawning over the wrong person. If it weren't for you, miss, always avoiding these gatherings and being so unassuming, how could second miss ever get this kind of attention?" I shook my head. Ming-Sui, you're mistaken. Ming-Sui immediately retorted, "You're right, miss. Your indifference to fame and fortune makes you too noble to associate with such people." Yet the very next moment, she stared in disbelief as I walked toward Zhou Wanqing's group. I extended the arm adorned with an exquisite jade bracelet and asked with a smile, "In your opinion, which bracelet is finer, mine or hers?" The cheerful group froze for a moment. Then they frowned, eyeing me with displeasure. "Who are you?" Zhou Wanqing's face suddenly paled. I continued with a smile, "Zhou Ryue, the legitimate daughter of the Zhou family." "What? Don't you inquire about someone's background before making friends?" A deathly silence fell over the table. The smiles on the faces of the girls who had been affectionately holding Zhou Wanqing's hand moments ago froze. "You're not the Zhou family's legitimate daughter? Why didn't you say so earlier?" I knew it. That air of her just screamed small time. Miss Zhou's bracelet is still the prettier one. It's got such a rich luster, you can tell it's the real deal at a glance. The group immediately surrounded me again. My smile remained unchanged as I handled the situation calmly, not forgetting to shoot Ming Chui a confident raised eyebrow. Zhou Wanqing stood there for a long time, her face dark. Her fingernails nearly tore through the handkerchief in her hand before she shot me a venomous glare and silently left the courtyard. I immediately signaled to Ming-Sui. She stepped forward to handle the crowd while I slowed my pace, quietly trailing behind Zhou Wanqing. Zhou Wanqing wound her way through twists and turns until she reached an artificial rockery. She seemed remarkably familiar with the Sun family's grounds. I dared not get too close, finding cover behind a sturdy tree. No sooner had I concealed myself than faint murmurs drifted from the other side. "Is Wei Lin truly with Zhou Ryue?" "Truly. I saw it myself." That made Ming-Sui by Zhou Ryue's side bought Wei Lin. The very next day, he vanished from South Street. I haven't seen him at the Zhou residence, though. Who knows where that dead girl's hiding him? Did you find him? No. Zhou Wanqing replied, her expression bitter with resentment. Zhou Ryue must have lost her mind, she started guarding against me. She even got me beaten with 20 strokes of the board. You must avenge this for me. Sun Yiru nodded coldly. Zhou Ryue is cunning. You've truly suffered. Rest assured. I'll make sure you get your revenge at the banquet tonight. Hidden behind a tree, I listened expressionless to their scheming. So Zhou Wanqing had been secretly in contact with Sun Yiru all along. No wonder in my past life, She always pinpointed my weak spots so precisely, making me look utterly ridiculous. But this time, before Sun Yiru, that mad dog, could launch her attack, her maid rushed over in a panic, her voice thick with unmasked terror. Miss. It's terrible. Princess Jiayang has arrived. Sun Yiru snapped. Nonsense. Princess Jiayang is royalty. Her attending my coming-of-age banquet is a great honor. What's wrong with that? The maid cautiously glanced at Zhou Wanqing before continuing. Princess Jiayang's presence is certainly a blessing. But, miss, accompanying her is a young man bound in iron chains. It's none other than Master Wei. The words struck like a thunderbolt, leaving Sun Yiru and Zhou Wanqing frozen in place. After a long moment, she urgently grabbed the maid's arm. Are you absolutely certain? Yes. I am. Sun Yiru shot Zhou Wanqing a vicious glare. If this is true, I'll settle the score with you later. With that, she lifted her skirt and hurried away. Zhou Wanqing was left standing alone, her face growing paler by the second. By the time I returned to the front courtyard, the already lively banquet had reached its peak with the arrival of Princess Jiayang. I walked over slowly. As I drew nearer, whispers reached my ears. How utterly humiliating. Princess Jiayang is truly outrageous. Shoo. Don't speak so carelessly. She's a princess, and he's merely a slave. How she treats him is perfectly normal. But to bring him openly to the banquet for humiliation? That's... Sigh. I parted the crowd. My eyes immediately fell upon Princess Jiayang, seated at the head of the table, sipping tea, and at her feet, prostrate, was Wei Lin, whom she used as a footstool. Half a month had passed, and his wounds had mostly healed. Now he wore a strikingly bright garment, adorned with flowers in his hair. The elaborate dressing accentuated his naturally handsome features, making them even more vivid. Yet there he knelt, an iron collar around his neck. The other end of the chain was clutched in Princess Jiayang's hand. Gritting his teeth, his face twisted with humiliation, he peeled grapes for the princess. Why are you all standing? Sit down and eat. What is it? Has this new toy of mine captivated you all with its beauty? The words made Wei Lin close his eyes in anguish, his thin, frail body trembling like a withered leaf in the wind. Sun Yiru rushed forward. Seeing this scene, she nearly exploded with rage at the age of 15. Your Highness. Even plants and trees possess lives, how much more so humans? Is it not inappropriate to treat young Master Wei so cruelly? Jia Yang gave her a faint, dismissive glance. Perhaps out of deference to the day's honoree. She replied with surprising patience. Are you implying I'm being too cruel? But when his father basked in luxury and plotted rebellion, did he spare a thought for the cruelty inflicted upon the emperor? The empress? Or the common people? He's merely a slave. Without this princess, he'd have perished long ago on South Street or become another rich man's plaything. What's a little humiliation from me? Her words were undeniably true. Yet Wei Lin's face flushed crimson. He glared at Princess Jiayang with a mix of humiliation and fury. I anticipated another speech about how even slaves possess dignity spilling from his lips. But the next instant, Princess Jiayang delivered a sharp slap across his face. A slave must act like a slave. Who gave you the right to look at this princess with such eyes? Did I speak wrong? Were it not for me, you'd still be scavenging scraps with wild dogs. What's your dignity worth? A few steamed buns? Wei Lin was struck to his knees. Sun Yiru instinctively took 2 steps forward, her eyes filled with pity. Seeing this, Wei Lin turned to look at her, his gaze laced with enticement. Just then, Jiayang spoke with a faint smile. What is it? Miss Sun? Could it be you fancy this slave? If you do, simply ask me. Since today is your coming-of-age banquet, I might just gift him to you. Sun Yiru's eyes flickered. She bit her lip, deep in thought for a long moment. Finally, she slowly shook her head, forcing a smile. How could I compete with your highness for someone? She dared not. Of course. The Sun family's standing in court was already precarious. If she dared take the descendant of a convicted minister as a slave today, her father would disown her as his legitimate daughter tomorrow. I chuckled softly and returned to my seat with leisurely composure. No sooner had I sat down than I felt a searing gaze upon me. Wei Lin's eyes met mine with an intense depth. At the time, I didn't understand the meaning behind that look. Yet when the banquet ended and I returned to the Zhou residence, my carriage had barely halted at the back gate when a figure abruptly materialized before me. By some means, Wei Lin had managed to escape the princess and track me down. Zhou Riyue. He called my name, his voice hoarse, eyes red-rimmed. Seeing me so wretched, you must be delighted, right? I froze for only a moment before regaining my composure. Wei Lin possessed considerable martial skill and resourcefulness. His escape from the princess's grasp was hardly surprising. I smiled. That you've climbed onto the princess's high branch, I'm naturally delighted for you. Wei Lin's pupils contracted slightly, his expression turning sharp. Are you mocking how I treated you before? Just because I refused to submit to you, you take such pleasure in seeing me humiliated by others? Zhou Riyue. Is this all you ever felt for me? Mr. Wei. How could I possibly be worthy of discussing feelings with you? You needn't be so sarcastic toward me. Wei Lin coughed twice, glanced at the time, and grew increasingly impatient. I have no time for idle chatter. I came seeking you today only to say this. Half a month ago, my refusal was not deliberate. The blame lies solely with you. You bought me back without ever considering or consulting my opinion. The wrongs you committed before shall be forgiven today, as long as you allow me to recuperate at the Zhou residence and find a way to procure what I desire. I may accept you. After speaking, he cast a condescending glance at me, as if bestowing a favor from on high. His expression seemed to say, I've made my offer, aren't you going to thank your benefactor? Ming Cui, listening nearby, was stunned. I stared at his expression for a few seconds before snorting derisively. Wei Lin, have you forgotten that I was the one who threw you out of the Zhou household? Wei Lin's expression stiffened, then turned annoyed. You're just a woman, prone to petty tantrums. Didn't you once willingly hide me from the Zhou family? Since you've shown me such sincerity, I'll tell you this, my father was framed. Once I recover my health and uncover the truth, I'll reclaim my status. Zhou Riyue, don't you want to be the crown prince's consort? Crown prince's consort. Indeed. So this was how he dangled that carrot before Zhou Wanqing in his past life. Since you're being so candid, I'll share something with you too. What? Wei Lin snapped impatiently. I clapped my hands. Your slave status? I handed it to Princess Jiayang. Your men? I sent them over. So Wei Lin, coming to me like this? You've walked right into my trap. No sooner had I spoken than 2 guards from the Zhou household descended from above, instantly subduing Wei Lin. Though skilled in martial arts, his injuries left him no match for the Zhou household guards. He was roughly pinned to the ground and bound. I instructed the guards, take him to the princess's residence. Tell the princess to keep a close watch, don't let anyone else slip away. Wei Lin's eyes blazed crimson with fury at my words. He spat out a torrent of curses. Zhou Riyue, you don't know your place. I was once a man of the highest standing, and you dare treat me this way? Once I uncover the truth and reclaim my status, I'll make you wish you were dead. Well said. I told the guards. Be sure to relay his words to the princess. Let's see how she responds. The princess's response came the very next day. She personally ordered his leg bones broken, ensuring he could never escape again. Then she sent a chest of jewels and ornaments to express her gratitude. The princess's overtures caught my father's eye. He smiled and praised me for finally cultivating connections among the powerful, no longer confined to the inner quarters. This scene was witnessed by Zhou Wanqing. She gnashed her teeth in fury. Not long ago, Zhou Wanqing had finally climbed onto the powerful tree of Sun Yiru through Wei Lin and my affair. She had believed her fortune would soar. Yet Wei Lin's appearance at the princess's side infuriated Sun Yiru. She believed Zhou Wanqing had deceived her, and seethed at her own inability to rescue Wei Lin from the princess's clutches. Old grudges and fresh resentment fused, all directed squarely at Zhou Wanqing. After the banquet ended that day, she brought her own girls and gave Zhou Wanqing a thorough beating. Her face still ached from the blows. But that wasn't the end of it. Sun Yiru, like a rabid dog, had nowhere to vent her fury. Day after day, she schemed to torment Zhou Wanqing. She'd either ruin her dresses, humiliating her in public, or bribe servants to push her into the lake. Watching her struggle and splash about, Zhou Wanqing was tormented beyond endurance. Finally, one night, she knocked on my courtyard gate. "Eldest sister, you must save me. Sun Yiru has gone mad, she's trying to destroy me." I sat before her, yawning indifferently. "So what? You chose this path yourself. For the sake of our past friendship, help me this once. If you speak to her, she'll surely spare me out of respect for you." Her words made me want to laugh. In my past life, when she was close with Sun Yiru, these very tactics were used against me. Why didn't she spare me back then? I bent down and patted Zhou Wanqing's cheek. "Don't think I don't know. You used me to get close to Sun Yiru. Now that she's discarded you like a dog, you think you can wag your tail at me? Too bad, no one likes a dog that bites its master." After speaking, I gave Mingsue a meaningful glance. She understood and turned to summon 2 maids. Zhou Wanqing betrayed the Zhou family to side with the sons, spreading slanderous rumors about me to destroy my reputation. Such a person is unworthy of remaining in the Zhou household. Today, on behalf of father, I strip her of her status as a concubine's daughter of the Zhou family and expel her from the Zhou residence. I will personally inform father and grandmother. Zhou Wanqing's face twisted with horror. "No! How dare you? Zhou Riyue, you have no right to do this." Though powerless within the Zhou household, she still lived a life of luxury and ease. Expulsion meant certain destitution, reduced to begging on the streets. I flung her hand away with a cold laugh. "See if I have the right?" On the day Zhou Wanqing was stripped of her status and expelled from the Zhou household, Sun Yiru brought the other noble young ladies to watch the spectacle. They mocked Zhou Wanqing without restraint. Suddenly, she snapped her head up, fixing Sun Yiru with a piercing stare. "What good does it do you to target me? I'm just a concubine's daughter, at your mercy. If you've got the guts, go after Zhou Riyue instead." If she hadn't sent Wei Lin to the princess's residence, how could he have ended up with his legs broken? Sun Yiru's smile froze. Is that true? What else could it be? Wei Lin had already escaped the princess's residence. Yet he deliberately sought out Zhou Riyue. Guess why he did that? Sun Yiru's expression darkened gradually. Compared to Wei Lin being sent to the princess's residence by my hand, she clearly resented more that his first act after escaping the residence was to come find me. The noble ladies beside her speculated. Could Wei Lin actually like Zhou Riyue? Impossible. He once declared the position of crown prince's consort would only be Yiru's. Exactly. He must hate Zhou Riyue and went to her for revenge. But no matter what they said, Sun Yiru completely shifted her anger toward me. She kicked Zhou Wanqing viciously twice, then ordered her maidservants to drag her into an alley for a brutal beating. After being beaten and with little money to her name, Zhou Wanqing soon vanished from the capital. No one ever heard of her again. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the princess's residence, sipping tea, leaning against the desk. She smiled and said, How amusing. Truly amusing. A slave taken on a whim. Yet so entertaining. Zhou Ruyue. You certainly know how to entertain me. I chuckled along. What do you think of my scheme? Your Highness? Excellent. Of course. If it succeeds, the Emperor and Empress will surely praise me. It benefits me greatly. So I'll naturally cooperate fully. 3 days later, Wei Lin escaped from the princess's residence once more. This time, however, he did not come looking for me. Not long after Wei Lin vanished, Sun Yiru also disappeared without a trace. Lord Sun concealed this matter, secretly dispatching men to search for Sun Yiru. Only the princess and I, who had been discreetly monitoring their every move, knew of this. Several days later, the princess and I went together to the imperial temple to pray and offer incense. After lighting the incense, the princess said to me, "Wait for me in the rear courtyard. I'll just have a word with the abbot and be right back." All right. I walked to the rear courtyard. Though the imperial temple wasn't usually teeming with people, dignitaries and nobles visited daily. Today, however, the rear courtyard was eerily quiet. Not a soul in sight. As I stood wondering, a wooden door slowly creaked open before me. Wei Lin, supported by Sun Yiru, emerged with a grim expression, moving with great difficulty. Zhou Ruyue. It's been a while. My gaze shifted from his face to his legs. Seems the princess didn't strike too hard. You're still able to stand. Wei Lin's eyes instantly darkened with ferocity, as if he wanted to tear me apart. You wretch! If not for you, how would my martial arts have been crippled, leaving me at the mercy of that vicious woman? Back then, I begged you to stay with all sincerity, yet you treated me with utter disdain. You didn't like me, nor did you like the princess. So what? Do you fancy Sun Yiru? Didn't she refuse to save you at first? Sun Yiru stiffened at the words, clenching her teeth as she retorted. I simply didn't know back then. As she spoke, a realization dawned on her. Her furious expression gradually gave way to smug satisfaction. Zhou Ruyue. You're merely enjoying a fleeting moment of verbal triumph. Your gloating won't last long. Wei Gongzi has joined forces with Magistrate Zhu to uncover evidence of the Prince of Fu's slander. At this morning's court session, Magistrate Zhu will present the proof. The Emperor will surely restore Wei Gongzi's status, bestowing honors and rewards upon him. The princess might be spared, but neither you nor the Zhou family will escape justice. Wei Lin lifted his chin, gazing down at me with disdain. Zhou Ruyue. I once gave you a chance. Pity you were so short-sighted as to offend me. Now, even if you kneel and beg, it's useless. I will repay the pain you inflicted upon me 1,000-fold. I watched their confident expressions and sneered inwardly. Outwardly, however, I remained impassive. Is that so? And how exactly do you plan to take revenge? Wei Lin gritted his teeth, enunciating each word deliberately. By flaying your skin, breaking your bones, then parading you through the streets for all to see your hideous face. Just then, the courtyard gate swung open. The princess's voice drifted in, tinged with mockery. Oh, whose ugly face? Both men's gazes snapped toward the voice. Upon seeing the princess, Wei Lin's pupils instinctively shrank, and he stumbled back 2 steps in fright. The princess burst out laughing. What's the matter? Wei Lin? Are you that afraid of this princess? Wei Lin's face darkened as he glared at her coldly. Jia Yang, your triumph won't last long. Jia Yang twirled a strand of hair, seemingly oblivious to his warning. She smiled sweetly and said, I knew it. I searched the entire capital and couldn't find you. Turns out you were hiding here. Wei Lin. Life without you serving as my lapdog has been rather dull. If you choose to return with me now, I'll overlook your escape. I'll even reward you with a fresh pair of shackles to play with. How does that sound? You dream. Wei Lin's chest heaved violently with rage. His face flushed crimson. You've humiliated me like this. Once I regain my status, I'll plead my case before the emperor and see you punished properly. Sun Yiru, still seething over the princess's humiliation at the banquet, threw caution to the wind. Exactly. What good is your favor now? Without your princess status, you're just a helpless orphan. Your fate rests on the emperor's whim. If they tire of you, do you think you'll fare any better than I did? The princess shot Sun Yiru a cold, dismissive glance. That single look was enough to send Sun Yiru cowering behind Wei Lin, too terrified to utter another word. The two stood at the doorway, their expressions brimming with smug satisfaction. At this point, do you really think I'm here with the princess for no reason? Wei Lin's smile froze abruptly. His mind raced, his face shifting through a whirlwind of complex emotions before settling on utter disbelief. You knew all along? Impossible. You're just two women, how could you possibly have the means to toy with me and Lord Zhu? No sooner had the words left his mouth than the back courtyard gate was kicked open from the outside. The Imperial Guard commander led his men in, demanding without ceremony, seize Wei Lin and the daughter of Minister Sun. A crippled man with a broken leg and a frail woman offered no resistance. Wei Lin was pinned to the ground, struggling violently, his eyes fixed on us. Why? Didn't Minister Zhu already present all the evidence? My father was framed. Why are you arresting me? The Imperial Guard commander sneered coldly. Young Master Wei. It was precisely thanks to your evidence that His Majesty could root out all the Prince Fu's faction within the court in one fell swoop. Magistrate Zhu would likely have been waiting in prison long ago. Come along. Wei Lin stared in disbelief, his eyes wide. But the evidence. The evidence. What evidence? Nothing but one-sided letters, how could those count as proof? Wei Lin's strength drained away, his heart turning to ashes. The Imperial Guard commander dragged him toward the exit. With other female relatives present, the commander paused to greet me and the princess. It was then that Wei Lin, as if suddenly grasping a lifeline, flashed an intense light in his eyes. Zhou Ruyue. Save me! Seizing a moment when the guards weren't looking, he scrambled to my feet in a few quick moves, gritting his teeth as he pleaded. I can't die. You know, Zhou Ruyue, how glorious my days once were. Didn't you used to love me? You even risked punishment to buy me from Nanda Lane and hide me in the Zhou residence. If you could do that before, you can do it now. Just plead with the princess and your father, the emperor will surely spare me. I swear I'll never think of anything else again. Serve you wholeheartedly, and stay with you forever. I frowned and moved my foot away with obvious annoyance. Captain Liu. This man's gone mad and is babbling nonsense. Why haven't you dragged him away yet? Yes. Miss Zhou. Wei Lin clung desperately to my ankle. Zhou Ruyue. You can't treat me like this. I know I was wrong. I'm willing to be with you, just save me. And I'll agree to anything. Save those words for Zhou Wanqing. With that, I pulled my foot away without hesitation, leaving Wei Lin and Sun Yiru to be taken away. The very next day after Wei Lin's arrest, the incident became known throughout the entire court. After all, based on the so-called evidence presented by Minister Zhu, the emperor had swiftly exposed over a dozen court ministers and punished them according to their past misdeeds. The court was in turmoil for quite some time. Once the dust settled, Wei Lin was sentenced to immediate execution by beheading at the city gate. Sun Yiru, convicted of adultery, was banished to Hangzhou, 3,000 li away. The Sun family also faced imperial punishment. Feeling utterly disgraced, Lord Sun voluntarily resigned his post and retired to his hometown. On the day Wei Lin was beheaded, the princess and I went to witness the spectacle. As the prison cart carrying him passed by, Wei Lin shook the bars like a madman, his eyes burning with crimson hatred. I gave him an almost imperceptible smile. Hate? But he brought this upon himself. In my past life, I had no regrets toward him. Yet I met a tragic end. What wrong had I done? Only when his head fell did the weight on my heart finally settle. On the way back to the Zhou residence, I unexpectedly saw Zhou Wanqing receiving a bundle from a woman. My expression remained impassive as I ordered Ming Sui, "Go arrest them." Ming Chui immediately ordered 2 servants to approach and, taking them by surprise, pin them down. She tore off the headscarf covering the woman's face, revealing none other than Zhou Wanqing's birth mother. She hastily knelt on the ground, kowtowing to me in supplication. Gazing at her youthful, beautiful face, I let out a cold laugh and had her brought directly before my father. Father initially hesitated to punish her. But just then, the loud voice of Eunuch De echoed outside the Zhou residence. Imperial edict has arrived. Everyone hurriedly knelt. It turned out that after the princess returned to the palace, she had informed the emperor of the entire incident involving Wei Lin. The emperor admired my boldness and rewarded me generously, bestowing upon me many fine gifts and even a 5th rank title. This honor, you must understand, was unparalleled throughout the entire imperial city. My father was overjoyed. He immediately ceased his refusal and drove Zhou Wanqing's birth mother out that very night. Several days later, in the dead of night, Ming Chui arrived at my room, umbrella in hand. I sat by candlelight, meticulously drying my hair. "Have you handled everything?" Ming Chui nodded. "Everything was done as you instructed, Miss. Zhou Wanqing and her mother will not leave the capital alive." The next day, 2 bodies were discovered floating in the moat. Their bodies were swollen from the water, their features unrecognizable. After being registered at the magistrate's office for a long time, no one came forward to claim them. Who could have imagined these were the bodies of Zhou Wanqing and her mother? The end.